I wrote the first rule at 11:14 p.m., 3 days after he froze the payment. I was at a coffee shop 2 miles from my apartment. Laptop open, second coffee going cold, cursor sitting on the node interface. I wrote 4 lines, saved it, closed the lid. That was the beginning. Let me back up. I've been doing smart home integration for 9 years. I don't sell packages, I don't do retail installs. I do custom work, full property systems, multi-zone, designed around how a specific client actually lives. I charge accordingly, and my contracts are straightforward. Half upfront, half on delivery. Delivery means the day the system is commissioned, tested, and signed off. Marcus Hale came to me through a referral from a client I'd done solid work for. He called once, asked the right questions, signed without negotiating. That should have told me something. In my experience, people who don't negotiate either trust you completely or they've already decided they're not paying the second half. The property was about 4,000 square feet in a gated community, half an hour outside the city. 6 entry points, 4 HVAC zones, distributed audio, motorized shading, a camera system with local storage and cloud backup, full lighting control tied to presence sensing. 12 weeks of work. This wasn't a consumer kit. It was a real system, built from scratch. He came by maybe half a dozen times over those 12 weeks. 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. He'd watch for a bit, ask questions that were really just things he already believed out loud, and leave. He never said thank you. He didn't say much that wasn't transactional. I noticed early on that when he talked to me, he looked slightly past me, toward whatever he was gesturing at, not at me. Fine. I've worked for harder people. I kept my head down and built him a clean system. The final walkthrough was a Tuesday. I went through every zone, every scene, every integration point. He watched. He didn't find anything wrong because there wasn't anything wrong. He signed the commissioning checklist. I photographed both pages before I left. He walked me to the door, and I thought that was the end of it. 4 days later, I got a notification from the payment processor. A dispute had been filed. I opened it and read through the claim. Incomplete commissioning. Non-functional zones. There was a list of specific deficiencies, each one written out formally. And every single one of them was absent from the checklist he'd signed 4 days before. I read it twice. None of it had happened. $14,400. Frozen. I called him once. He didn't pick up. I sent 2 emails. He replied to the second one with 2 sentences. Direct further inquiries to his assistant. I looked into the legal side of it. 18 months minimum to get to a hearing. Filing fees, documentation costs, and if he had a lawyer, which a man like that absolutely did, I'd be covering mine the whole way through. So I didn't file. I went home. I went back through the contract and the commissioning photos. Then I sat down and ran the numbers. What litigation would cost, how long it would take, what I actually had in the account. The math didn't work. I sat with that for 2 days. Then I thought about the node. When I build out a system like this, what the client interacts with is the surface layer, the app, the dashboard, the voice interface. Below that is the local mesh hub, which is where the automation engine actually lives. It runs the rules, manages the schedule, talks to every device in the house. Most installers configure it, lock it down, and hand it over. I configured it, and I left one layer open. An admin node, unlisted, not visible through the standard interface. You'd only know it was there if you knew to look for it, and you'd only get in if you had the credentials. I have the credentials. I want to be clear about the scope of what I did. I didn't touch his cameras. I didn't go into his network, his files, anything personal. I didn't unlock his doors or take anything. What I did was make small, precise adjustments to the physical environment he lived in. Changes that would never trigger an error, never show up as a fault, never give him anything concrete to report. The first change was the thermostat. His bedroom was set to 68 degrees. I wrote a rule that dropped it by 0.4 degrees between 1 and 4 in the morning, then corrected it back before 6. The thermostat he had was a good one, the kind with the round premium display, but it rounded to the nearest whole degree. It would always show 68. The room wouldn't always be 68. The second change was the morning light scene. He had it set to ramp to 78% by 7 a.m. I moved it to 83. 5 points. It doesn't sound like much, but there's a difference between a room that feels right when you wake up and one that feels slightly too bright, slightly off. The kind of thing you notice without being able to name it, so you don't say anything. The third was the front door lock. I put a 1.1 second delay on his credentials specifically. Every other key fob in the system responded instantly. His would take the touch, pause, then release. Long enough to make him press it again. Long enough to make him wonder if the battery was going. Not long enough to log as a fault. The fourth was the audio zone in his study. Twice a week on a random schedule, I had the system drop the stream for 200 milliseconds. That's not long enough to register as silence. It's long enough to make the room feel like it's skipped. The kind of thing that makes you look up from whatever you're doing without knowing what pulled your attention. I didn't run all 4 at once. I staged them. Week 1, the thermostat. Week 2, the lights. Week 3, the lock. Week 4, the audio. I wanted to watch what each one produced before I added the next. Everything produced something. The unlisted node gets passive telemetry from the hub, so I can see events without pushing anything. By the end of week 3, I could see Hale had called the manufacturer's support line twice. I could see that on a Thursday at 2:47 in the morning, he had manually overridden the bedroom thermostat, got out of bed, turned the physical dial up to 70. I could see that in the event log. I could also see that my rule had corrected it back down to 67.6 by 2:51. He'd woken up cold, gotten up, adjusted the heat himself, and 4 minutes later the house had quietly moved it back. He didn't know that. His thermostat still read 68. I spent some time on that. What he was dealing with wasn't visible. No error code, no alert, nothing he could show anyone. Whatever he was noticing it by himself, in a house that every diagnostic said was working fine. By week 5, the support calls had become a service visit. A technician came out from the manufacturer. I watched the event log that day. He ran diagnostics through the standard interface, got nothing, rebooted the hub, ran them again, got nothing. He probably told Hale the system was operating correctly. It was operating correctly. Every rule was running exactly the way I'd written it. I want to be clear about one thing. I knew where the line was and I stayed behind it. There's a version of this where it escalates. Lights flickering, locks jamming, temperature swings bad enough to wake him up every night. I wasn't interested in going there. What I did was run the rules for 6 weeks. Not pushing harder, not pulling back. Just steady. In the 6th week, Hale listed the property. I found out because I have a real estate alert set up in that area. I watch for new listings as potential leads. His house came up on a Thursday morning. 4-bed, 4-bath, smart home system included. Price to move. I don't know why he listed it. I genuinely don't. It could have been a job change, a relationship, something financial I have no way to see. I have no idea if the house had anything to do with it. But I know what he signed off on. I know what was running in that house for 6 weeks after he decided my work wasn't worth paying for. And I know the node is still open. The rules are still running. If he sells the place and someone new moves in, the rules will run for them too, until someone does a full factory reset on the hub. Almost nobody does that. Almost nobody knows there's anything to reset. I could shut it down right now. I've been thinking about that this morning, sitting here, working through it. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to finish this coffee first.